You guys aren't video. You aren't on. Good morning. Welcome to Twinkie's YogaFit. Happy Tuesday. It's Tuesday. Yay! I'm good people. Oh, so excited. And I apologize for not wearing a PPE mask today, but I just can't do this and breathe. Yeah. So, but welcome, thank you for joining me. Let's all, ooh, sorry, we need music. Forgot about that. I knew I'd forget something today. Cause I'm, back to normal. Oh, there we go. Gotta get the music on. No stub toe, that would be bad. Don't want to stub toes on any of this equipment. Let's see if we can get this going. How is everybody today? Good, marvelous.
I was looking forward to yoga.
Yay, me too, especially after yesterday. Come on. There we go. All right, let's all come to the top of our mats. Finding mountain pose. Just settling in. Taking a nice deep breath. Grounding all four corners of our feet into our mats. Drawing that energy up now through the arches and our shins, pass through our knees, up through the quads, our hamstrings. Taking a nice deep breath in as we come up. Make some space in between the hips and the rib cage. Making yourself really tall, making that spine really long. With our palms facing forward, shoulder blades down in the back, drawing up through the crown of the head, creating a really strong mountain. Taking a nice deep breath in, let's all inhale those arms up, placing the palms together and settling them down to the heart center for mountain flow. Inhaling those arms up, inhaling through the nose and then exhaling on the way down through the nose also. Creating one breath for one movement. For our warm-up today, inhaling up and exhaling down, generating some internal heat to get our bodies ready for yoga to follow. During this warm-up, we're going to keep doing one breath per movement and inhaling through the nose and out through the nose. Reaching and stretching those arms up, trying to pull those arms and right out of the shoulders almost, just to get that really nice stretchy feeling. Let's do two more. And then we're going to settle those hands down to the heart center, taking our feet out to the sides of our mat. Toes pointing out, finding moon pose. In moon pose, the elbows are drawn in at our rib cage, sinking our tailbone down, pulling those knees out towards the pinky toes. Our heart centers are lifted, and then we're going to inhale on the way up, reaching to the sky, and then settling back down into moon pose. For moon flowers. Inhaling on the way up, exhaling on the way down. Trying to drop that tailbone down a little bit further each time as we come down. Starting to warm up those legs now, along with the shoulders. A lot of cracking. Good morning, cracks. Let's do 2 more moonflowers. And then we'll settle into sun pose with our arms facing, palms facing up, drawing those thumbs back out towards behind us. So that we're opening up the heart center, sinking that tailbone down. Knees are pulled out towards the pinky toes for sunflowers. We're going to inhale up. Exhaling, we're going to bend those knees, hinging at the hips, drawing through the crown of the head, maintaining that neutral spine on the way down. Inhaling on the way up, exhaling on the way down. Going at your own perfect pace. You don't have to match mine. Still inhaling through the nose and out through the nose. Good morning, bodies. Again, trying to create that space in our bodies, really reaching as far as we can. Extending. Let's do 1 more. Sunflower. Settling those hands back down to the heart center. And then coming back up to the top of your mats. Spine mountain pose. Preparing for chair flow. So we're going to inhale those arms up. Exhaling, we're going to bend the knees, hinging at the hips, and bringing those hands down to the top of our thighs. Lifting that heart center up, pulling that tailbone behind us. Let's inhale on the way up. Exhale on the way down. Choosing any one of the arm movements. Opening up the chest. Reaching up in front of you. Or just resting the hands on top of the thighs for chair flow. Still inhaling through the nose and out through the nose. Still warming up. During our warm-up portion, we always do that inhale and exhale through the nose. 1 breath per movement. We're going to do 2 more chair flow, and then we're going to meet up in extended mountain pose. We're reaching up, bringing those thumbs behind us, creating a little mini back bend. Drawing our head away from our shoulders, pulling that core center in, getting ready, we're going to swan dive down. So we're going to hinge at the hips, drawing through the crown of the head, maintaining that neutral spine, and you can place your hands either on your thighs or on the floor, or you can cross those arms, but still maintaining the neutral spine, not letting that back roll in the back, head and shoulders, or head and neck as we relax on the shoulders. You can have those hands on the floor. The lower ribs meet the upper spine. This is forward fold. On the next inhale, let's inhale up. Exhaling, swan diving down, finding forward fold again. Keep on going. Inhaling up and exhaling down. Really stretching through those fingertips. do 2 more. Forward folds. And we'll bring those hands up, together, down to the heart center. And I'm going to move to the top of my mat. You guys stay there. I'm going to inhale on the way up. Finding that extended mountain pose. Swan diving down, finding forward fold. We're going to come down to our mats now. So taking our right knee back, followed by the left knee, finding child's pose. Oh, hello, child's pose. In child's pose, we can have our arms straight out in front of us, trying to rest our foreheads on the mat. If you can't get the forehead down to the mat, you can place fists one on top of the other. Or you can place your hands down behind you if you'd like, resting that forehead. Or you can even use that yoga block or a towel and placing it underneath your bottom to help your bottom rest. In child's pose, you could use a towel. Our knees can be close or our knees can be wide. On the next inhale, we're going to come forward up into neutral spine, where our hands are our wrists are directly below our shoulders, knees below our hips. In neutral spine, our head is in line from the top of our head down to our tailbone. On the next inhale, we're going to inhale up into cow position, lifting our head away from our neck, tilting those hips up towards the sky, opening up that heart center, and then exhaling down into cat position. Inhaling in cow, and then exhaling into cat. Expansion and contraction, matching breath to movement. Let's do one more of these, and then we'll meet back in neutral spine, preparing for spinal balance. In spinal balance, we're going to lift our left leg up so that it's parallel to the floor, pressing our heel to the back of the mat and our toes are pointing down. Taking our right arm out, lifting it, reaching through the fingertips, drawing that core center in, and then bringing them back to center. And inhaling on the way out, doing the other side. Right heel is pressed out, toes pointing down, fingertips reaching, and then switching. Switch from side to side now. One breath, one movement. Trying not to rock from side to side. Using that core center to maintain that balance. Let's do one more on each side. Really reaching and stretching. And then meeting down into child's pose. And before we get too comfortable down here in child's pose, we're going to come forward into a kneeling plank. Wrists are below our shoulders. Core center is drawn in, head is in line with our spine. We're going to come down about 2 inches into a modified crocodile, and then pressing back up for crocodile push-ups. Inhaling, exhaling. Still one breath per movement. Trying not to let the head drop or crane out. Do as many of these crocodile push-ups as you can. If you need a break, find a break in child's pose. I'm going to do 2 more, and then meet in child's pose. On the next inhale, we're going to come up onto our feet and our hands, finding downward facing dog. Placing all 10 fingers into the mat, pressing all those knuckles into the mat, spreading those fingers nice and wide, coming up on those toes, pressing through the back of the heels and the balls of the feet, lifting that tailbone up towards the sky, drawing your heart center down towards your hips, pulling those shoulders away from the ears. Your ears are between the biceps. Core center is drawn in. Finding a really strong downward facing dog. Now let's bicycle those legs a little bit. Stretching those calves. Our hamstrings a little bit. And then meeting back in downward facing dog. And walking our feet up towards the top of our mats, in between our hands, in the forward fold. Giving that head a little shake and a nod, making sure that your head and neck are relaxed on the shoulders. And inhaling those arms, sweeping up. Taking the hands together, bringing them down to the heart center, and then finding mountain pose. Preparing now for sun salutations. Let's all inhale up. Exhaling, we're going to swan dive down, bending those knees, hinging at the hips, drawing through the crown of the head. Finding forward fold. On the next inhale, we're going to take our right knee back into a lunge, or kneeling lunge, followed by the left knee, finding child's pose. On the next inhale, we're going to inhale forward into a kneeling plank, exhaling down into crocodile, which is a hover just above the mat, dropping those hips and thighs onto the mat, coming up into cobra. In cobra, we draw those elbows into our sides, lifting our head away from the shoulders, then pressing back, finding child's pose. On the next inhale, we're going to inhale that right foot up into that lunge, followed by the left foot into forward fold, inhaling on the way up, and then exhaling down in a chair position. Let's do the left side. Remembering that this first time through that I'm doing all of the basic moves. Inhaling on left knee goes back into that lunge, followed by the right knee. Finding child's pose. Inhaling forward into that plank. Exhaling down into crocodile. Dropping those hips and thighs onto the mat. Reaching up forward through the chest. In cobra, pressing back now into child's pose, and then inhaling, that left foot comes up in between those hands for the lunge, followed by the right foot into forward fold, inhaling those arms up, and then exhaling down in a chair. Now I'm going to move on to the more complicated moves. You can stay with the first ones if you'd like, inhaling those arms up, exhaling down into forward fold. Inhaling, that right foot goes back into a lunge, a standing lunge. You can place your hand on your thigh, open up the heart, or lift those arms up, or even have the hands down on the hips. Taking those hands down on either side of that forward foot, pressing it back now into either child's pose or downward facing dog. Coming forward into a plank, a full plank, or kneeling plank, it's your choice. And then settling down in a crocodile that hover right above the floor. Dropping those hips and thighs down for either cobra or pressing up through up dog. Up dog, your hips and your thighs are off of the mat. And if you'd like, you can even come up onto the top of your feet for up dog. Then pressing back now into downward facing dog. Taking our right foot, bringing it up in between those hands into that lunge. Followed by the left foot in the forward fold. Reaching those arms up. And then settling down in a chair. Let's do the left side. Inhaling those arms up. Exhaling down in a forward fold. Inhaling that left leg goes back into the lunge. Choosing any one of those arm positions. Bringing those hands down beside your forward foot. Pressing it back into either downward facing dog or child's pose. Inhaling forward into that plank. Exhaling down into crocodile. Inhaling up through either cobra or up dog. Pressing back into child's pose or down dog. Taking that left leg now, bringing it up in between those hands into that lunge. Followed by the right foot. Inhaling those arms up. And then exhaling down in a chair. Let's see if we can really flow now. Inhaling those arms up. Exhaling forward fold. Inhaling the right leg goes back into that lunge. Followed by the left. Into downward facing dog or child's pose. Inhaling forward into the plank. Exhaling down into crocodile. Up into cobra or up dog. Pressing back into either child's pose or down dog. Inhaling that right foot up into the lunge. Followed by the left. In a forward fold. Inhaling those arms up. And then exhaling down in a chair. One more time, left side. Inhaling the arms up. Exhaling. Forward fold. Inhaling that left leg goes back into the lunge. Whoa. Bringing those hands down beside that forward foot. Into either child's pose or down dog. Inhaling those arms forward. Or inhaling yourself forward into plank. Exhaling down into crocodile. Inhaling up into cobra or up dog. Pressing back into downward facing dog. Bringing that right foot up into that lunge. Followed by the left foot into forward fold. Inhaling those arms up. And then exhaling down in a chair. Let's do the left side. One last time. In the forward fold. Exhaling that left leg goes back into that lunge. Followed by the right foot. Finding downward facing dog. Inhaling forward into that plank. Exhaling down into crocodile. Inhaling up into cobra or up dog. Pressing back now into either child's pose or downward facing dog. Inhaling that left leg comes up into the lunge. Followed by the right. Finding forward fold. Inhaling those arms up. And then exhaling down in a chair. And then finding mountain pose. Hopefully we're all warmed up now. If you'd like to get a sip of water, please do. And then we'll move on to the work portion. All warmed up. Alright, let's all meet at the top of our mats. Finding mountain pose. Taking a nice deep breath in. We're going to inhale those arms up. Then we're going to exhale those arms down and around behind us as if we're squeezing a beach ball in chest expansion. Lifting our head away from our shoulders. Pulling those shoulder blades together in the back, really squeezing that ball. Opening up that heart center. If you'd like to get a little more out of this one, you can place your palms together, linking your fingers. for chest expansion. We can also hinge forward, bending the knees, coming into forward fold with either our arms pressing that beach ball or with our hands linked together, really feeling the chest really opening up in the front, keeping that head and neck relaxed on the shoulders. We're going to bring those hands down beside our feet, taking our right foot back and our left foot back, finding downward facing dog. Lifting those hips up towards the sky, fingers spread nice and wide, pressing all those knuckles into the mat, pressing through the back of our heels, the balls of our feet, drawing that core center in for a really nice downward facing dog. On the next inhale, we're going to inhale forward into a plank, into the full plank, with our head is in line with our spine, drawing through the back of our heels, pressing our heels towards the back of the mat, lifting our head away from our shoulders, drawing the core center in for a nice strong plank. We can either plank in full plank or in a kneeling plank. We're going to turn this plank into a side plank by dropping, if you'd like for a kneeling plank, dropping our knee, adjusting our hands so that it's in the middle, lifting that arm up into a side plank. We can either stay in a kneeling plank or a full side plank, lifting that arm straight up to the sky, drawing that core center in, and then lifting that hip up towards the sky also. Drawing that core center in, we're going to come back around, finding plank position, either kneeling or full, and then switching to the other side. I'm going to switch to the other side. We'll do a kneeling plank on the other side, pulling that knee underneath us, lifting that arm up, hip up towards the sky, or we can do full side plank on the edges of our feet, or we can even stack our feet one on the other in side plank. Remembering to draw that core center in, opening up the heart center, pulling those shoulder blades together in the back. Now coming back around, finding either downward facing dog or child's pose. On the next inhale, we're going to inhale our right heel up towards the sky, lifting that right leg, finding a really wonderful stretch for those hips and our thighs, pressing our left heel down into the mat for a three-legged dog. On the next inhale, we're going to inhale that right leg forward in between those hands, dropping the back foot back and down. We're going to press up through that front foot, inhaling on the way up, exhaling on the way down, finding warrior one position. In warrior one, our shoulders and hips are facing the front of the mat, dropping the tailbone down, reaching back with those thumbs, keeping that front knee bent, drawing the core center in for a really strong warrior one position. In warrior one, we can open up the arms to open up the chest. We can place those hands on our hips if we'd like, or have them reaching up. On the next inhale, we're going to inhale up and exhale down, finding warrior two position. So in warrior two, our shoulders and our hips are aligned with the side of the mat. And I always like to do a little manual adjustment because I have a tendency to not pay attention to where my body is sometimes in space. Drawing those knees out towards the pinky toes. Our shoulders are down and relaxed, but our arms are strong. That front knee is bent. As we gaze over our front heel, we're going to turn the palm up. We're going to reach forward and then lift up for side bend. In side bend, you'll feel the stretch all the way through the rib cage, through the hip. We can look up at our fingertips or down to the side, or even at the floor, wherever our neck feels comfortable. Really reaching those fingers up and behind us a little bit. On the next inhale, we're going to inhale up, exhale back down, finding warrior two, circling those hands down to the mat, placing them beside our forward foot, pressing our forward foot back, finding either child's pose or down dog, coming forward into a plank, kneeling or full, exhaling down into crocodile, inhaling up through cobra or up dog, and then pressing back now into downward facing dog. On the next inhale, we're going to inhale that left heel up towards the sky, lifting that leg, really stretching that heel up towards the sky. Our right heel is pressing into the mat. Core center is drawn in, drawing that heart center down towards those hips in this three-legged dog. Let's inhale that left foot up in between those hands into that lunge, dropping the back foot back and down, pressing up through that front foot. Finding warrior one. Tailbone is down, core center drawn in, reaching back, bending that forward knee in warrior one. Let's inhale up and then exhale, turning, finding warrior two. Dropping those shoulders down and back, getting them really relaxed with those arms really nice and strong. Pulling those knees out towards the pinky toes. Core center is drawn in for warrior two position. Tilting our palm up, reaching forward, and then lifting up into side bend. Oh, I love this stretch for those ribs. I can really feel in between those ribs and those that hip. This is a wonderful stretch. Reaching those fingertips behind us. Let's inhale on the way up. Exhale on the way down, finding warrior two. Circling the arms back down to the mat on either side of that foot. Pressing that foot back, finding downward facing dog. On the next inhale, we're going to inhale forward into that plank. Exhaling down into crocodile, dropping those hips. Inhaling up through either cobra or up dog, and then pressing back now, finding either downward facing dog or child's pose. Lifting those hips up and downward facing dog. We're going to take our right foot now, reaching and stretching, lifting that right leg, heel up towards the sky, pressing through that left heel, pressing that left heel down and towards the mat. It doesn't have to touch the mat, but just creating that extra stretch for the back of that calf, that hamstring. Taking that right leg, bringing it up in between those hands, finding your lunge, your knee is directly over the ankle, dropping that back foot back and down, pressing up through that front leg, inhaling up, sinking down, finding warrior one. Reaching back with those arms in warrior one. The back edge of the back foot is trying to press into the mat behind us. The front knee is bent. And inhale up, exhaling down, finding warrior two. There we go. On the next inhale, we're going to bend that forward arm, placing our wrist down on the top of our thigh, lifting that back arm up with the palm facing the side of our mat for extended angle. An extended angle, we can stay here with our internal support, resting on our leg, or we can drop that internal support, let that arm rest freely, using our core center to keep us up in extended ankle. We can also place our hand down on the mat if we like. Wherever we are in extended angle though, let's come back up. Inhale up, exhale back down, finding warrior two. On the next inhale, we're going to straighten that forward leg, pressing our hip back, and then placing our hand on our thigh and then lifting that back arm up for triangle position. In triangle, if we look up, you should see your fingertips directly over your shoulder. If you look down, you should see your nose directly over your shin. It'll ensures that your shoulders are stacked directly over your hips. Drawing those shoulder blades together in the back in triangle, really pressing those hips back towards the back of the mat. Opening up that heart center. On the next inhale, we're going to bend that forward knee, placing those hands down beside, on one side of your forward foot, coming up on your fingertips, kind of walk those fingertips around to the side of the mat. We're standing straddle. In standing straddle, we're hinged at the hips. As we breathe in, we try to make a really long spine, and as we exhale, we want to sink down, finding a nice stretch for those hips, hamstrings, inner thighs. Our heels are a little bit further out than our toes, making sure that our head and our neck are relaxed on those shoulders. And we're maintaining that neutral spine in this forward fold. Anytime we're in forward folding, we want to make sure that we're hinging at the hips and maintaining that neutral spine. As we breathe in, try to make that spine a little bit longer, and as we exhale, try to sink a little bit further into that stretch, finding that really nice stretch with those inner thighs there. When we're ready to come out of forward standing straddle, I'm going to inhale up onto those fingertips, walking them back around towards the front of the mat, placing them on either side of the foot, placing our right foot back, finding downward facing dog. On the next inhale, we're going to inhale forward into that plank, exhaling down into crocodile, inhaling up through cobra or up dog, and then coming back into downward facing dog. On the next inhale, let's inhale that left heel up to the sky, pressing our right heel into the mat. Really reaching for that beautiful stretch. Inhaling that left leg up in between those hands into a lunge. Checking that alignment of the knee over the ankle. Dropping the back foot back and down. Pressing up through that forward foot. And then exhaling down. Finding warrior one. Whoa. I had to use my toes to not fall over on that one. On the next inhale, let's inhale those arms up and turning around into warrior two position. Shoulders and hips facing the side edge of our mat. Bending that forward knee. Let's take that arm, bend it, placing that forearm on our thigh, lifting that back arm up for extended angle on the other side. Ooh, I'm feeling this side a little bit more than the other side today. Again, if we look up, we can see our fingertips above our shoulder, pulling our shoulder blades together in the back, making sure that our knee does not collapse in extended angle. We can lose that internal support. Place that hand on the floor if we'd like. From extended angle, we're going to inhale up and then exhale down. Finding warrior two. Straightening that forward knee. Pressing our hips back to the back of the mat. Placing our forward arm on our shin and then lifting up in a triangle position. Drawing those shoulder blades together in the back. Really opening up that heart center. Reaching those fingertips as much as you can towards the sky to really feel this stretch. Pressing those hips to the back of the mat in triangle position. On the next inhale, let's bend that forward knee. Bringing those hands to the inside, both of them of that forward foot. Up on those fingertips, we're going to walk those fingertips around towards the side of the mat. We're standing straddle again. Heels are out further than the toes. As we inhale, we make our spine really long, and as we exhale, we sink down,
Finding that stretch for the hamstrings, glutes, inner thighs, lower back, letting your head and neck relax on those shoulders. Trying to stretch a little bit more every time that you breathe out. On the next inhale, we're going to come up onto those fingertips again, walking those fingertips around to the front of the mat, placing them on either side of the foot, pressing that back foot back into downward facing dog. On the next inhale, we're going to inhale forward into that plank, kneeling or full plank, exhaling down into crocodile, inhaling up through cobra or up dog, and then pressing back again into downward facing dog. All 10 fingers pressing into the mat, fingers spread wide, lifting those hips up towards the sky, drawing the heart center towards those hips, pulling those shoulders away from the ears. When your ears are resting between the biceps, core center is drawn in. For a nice, strong downward facing dog. On the next inhale, let's walk those feet up towards the front of the mat in the forward fold. Resting for a few seconds here in forward fold. Forward fold is another resting position. Lower ribs meet the upper thighs. You can cross your arms, let them rest on the floor. Head and neck are relaxed. Give it a little shake and a nod. On the next inhale, we're going to inhale those arms up. Bringing those hands together. Settling them down at the heart center. Finding your breath. Finding your balance. Then taking your left foot, we're going to take our left foot and place it about halfway down the mat, lining our heels up so that they're down the side edge of the mat. Inhaling our arms up, bending that forward knee, finding warrior one, a little shorter stance, warrior one. Reaching back with those thumbs, creating that little mini back bend. Through the fingertips, we're reaching up towards the sky. Core center is drawn in. Let's bring those hands down to the crease in our thighs. And then we're going to hinge forward, drawing through the crown of the head, keeping that neutral spine, placing our hand either on our thigh, on our shin, or on the floor if you'd like. Relaxing the head and neck. And if you'd like a little more stretch in pyramid pose here, we can straighten or try to straighten that forward leg, pressing our hips back towards the back of the mat, creating that nice stretch in that hamstring. Remembering to keep that head relaxed on the shoulders. Every time you breathe out, try to stretch a little bit more. Maintaining that straight leg in the back. Really finding that stretch. Sometimes I move my hips around a little bit to see where my hamstring needs to stretch a little bit more and hold it there. You want to find a stretch between hard and easy. On that next inhale, we're going to bend that forward knee. Walking our fingertips out in front of our foot, lifting our back leg up for balancing half moon. In balancing half moon, our leg is parallel to the floor, pressing our heel back to the back edge of the mat. Our toes are pointing to the side of the mat. Balancing half moon is a challenging position, so we can stay here with both of our hands attached to our mats, or we can try lifting one. Maybe closing our eyes. Or taking that hand to the hip, or opening up towards the side of our mat. Finding a good challenge in balancing half moon. On the next inhale, let's bring those hands and feet back down to the mat. Finding forward fold. We're going to inhale those arms sweeping up. Bringing those hands together. And down to the heart center. Preparing for mountain 3. Or, yeah, warrior 3. Sorry, warrior 3. So on the next inhale, we're going to inhale those arms up. So warrior 3, we hinge at the hips, lifting one leg, trying to make ourselves into a T, like we're flying. Whoa! I saw the weights beside me. I almost grabbed them. Go. Nice. And then bringing those hands back down to the floor, the mat, along with our hands, feet and hands. And then inhaling on the way up. Exhaling those hands down to the heart center. Again, finding your breath and balance. When you're ready, let's take our right foot, place it halfway down the mat, lining our heels up on the edge of the mat, down the long edge of the mat, inhaling those arms up, bending that forward knee, and then reaching back for warrior 1. Fingertips are reaching, core center is drawn in, tailbone is dropping down in the back. On the next inhale, let's take those hands, place them at the crease in our hips, hinge forward, placing our hands on our thighs, on our shin, maintaining that neutral spine or on the floor for pyramid pose. Head and neck are relaxed. If you'd like a little more stretch in that hamstring, straighten that forward leg. Pressing those hips back to the back edge of the mat. Keeping that back leg straight. Try not to let that knee bend in the back. You can get more stretch out of that hamstring. Sinking down further as you breathe out if you can. On your next inhale, as we bend that forward knee, we're going to walk those fingertips out in front of our foot, lifting that back foot up, heel pressing to the back of the mat, toes towards the side. We're balancing half moon on the other side. This is the other side of the moon. Drawing through the crown of the head. Never thought of that before. Lifting that hand if you'd like. Just a little bit off the floor. Just hover it. Or place it on the hips. Or open up to the side. Changing your gaze will even challenge that balance. Core center's drawn in. Bringing those hands back down to the mat and our feet. Into forward fold. And inhaling those arms up. And exhaling the hands down to the heart center. Finding again your breath and balance. Preparing for warrior 3. Let's inhale those arms up. Shifting the weight over to the other side now. Opening up the arms, hinging at the hips. And finding your balance in warrior 3. You can use a yoga block, just like I did. You find that you're losing your balance. No balance on left side today. Presently working on my balance on the left side today. towards our feet, finding forward fold. Inhaling those arms, sweeping up. Bringing the hands together. And down to the heart center. Preparing for tree position. Let's find mountain pose. So, rounding all four corners of our feet into the mat. Inhaling, taking a nice deep breath in, just finding your breath for a second. Then drawing that energy up all the way from our mat, up through the arches, past the knees, into the quads. Sometimes I like to try to turn the quads in and back. Tilt that pelvis down, or the pelvis up, tailbone goes down in the back. Really creating that space again between the ribs and the hips. The palms are facing forward. Drawing that core center in. Making that neck really, really long, drawing through the crown of the head. Making a really strong mountain. Remembering that in our mountain lives life and breath and lava. Let's inhale those arms up. We're going to turn our mountain into a tree. Let's bring those hands down to the heart center. And shifting our weight over to one side, lifting that leg up. Bringing that to the ankle or the shin if you'd like. Placing those branches out. Creating a strong tree. And bringing those branches and limbs back into the heart center. Placing that foot back down. Inhaling those arms back up. Exhaling the hands down to the heart center and shifting the weight over to the other side for tree on the other side. Bring that foot into the ankle if you'd like, or on the shin. Pulling that knee out behind you so you open up that hip. Finding your balance. Taking those branches out if you'd like. Nice trees. Guys have been practicing in trees. Bring those hands down to the heart center. Placing those feet back on the floor. And then finding mountain pose. Preparing now for our deep stretches. So I'm going to go back to the top edge of my mat. If you'd like to get a sip of water before deep stretch, you can. I was watching my puppies out there when I was doing tree. Alright, coming to the top edge of our mat. Finding mountain pose. Let's inhale those arms up. Exhaling, we're going to swan dive down, finding forward fold. Lower ribs meet the upper thighs. Our head and neck is relaxed on our shoulders. Taking our right leg back into a kneeling lunge, followed by the left, finding child's pose. Really settling into our mats now, preparing for our deep stretches. Knees can be wide or close. Relaxing that forehead either on the mat or on our fists. Finding some relaxation now in child's pose. If you'd like to, we can come forward onto our bellies for lotus position. Coming up onto our tummies. resting our forehead on our mats, placing our hands down behind us with our palms facing up. In lotus position, we're going to lift our heart center away from the mat, drawing through the crown of the head and the back of the neck, lifting our hands up, and then pressing our fingertips towards the back edge of our mat, pressing our fingertips towards our feet, really reaching and stretching. And if you'd like, you can lift one or both feet off the mat in lotus position, pressing those toes now, along with our fingertips, towards the back edge of the mat. As we breathe out, try to reach those limbs a little bit longer each time for lotus position. It's not so much about how far we can bend up, creating a back bend. It's more about lifting a little bit and stretching those limbs. On the next exhale, as we exhale down, just relax down not one vertebrae, but relax those limbs down to the mat. Turning our head so that it's relaxing on the cheek or ear to find a nice stretch for that neck. Let those shoulders just sink down into the mat at the same time, creating a nice long stretch for that neck. Preparing for bow position, we can take our right arm, since we're looking over our left shoulder, pressing our arm into the, wherever I've got my arm here, up above my head. Lifting up through that arm to the front, reaching back for your ankle. Pressing that ankle into the palm of the hand, creating that stretch for the quad in bow position. This is half bow. If you'd like, you can do full bow by grasping both ankles and pressing both ankles into both of your hands, lifting up through the heart center. Again, we're not trying to create a really big bow. It's more about lifting the heart center up, pressing those ankles into the hands to find that stretch for those quads. If you place your knees together a little closer, you'll find a little more stretch in those quads. If you're in half bow, switch to the other side. Stretch for that quadricep. Whenever you're ready to come out of bow, feel free to do that. Relaxing both of those, all of your limbs now down to the mat, turning your head to the other side so that your cheek and ear are resting on that mat, finding that nice neck stretch. Taking those hands now, placing them right underneath our shoulders and then pressing up onto our knees, preparing for camel position. You can take your mat and fold it under to create some cushion for our knees for camel position. Inhaling those arms up, and then exhaling those arms behind us, creating fists and placing those fists on either side of the spine at the sacrum, and then leaning back in a little mini back bend in camel position. Finding a comfortable position so that your throat, you don't feel any pressure in your throat, neck area there in the front. If you can reach your heels without twisting, you can lean back, find your heels for a deeper camel position. And coming out of camel, we come up through the top of the head. Coming forward, bringing our hands down to the mat. leaning back, finding child's pose. Anytime we do a back bend, we always follow with a forward fold to reset the spine. So if you feel a little heat back here in your lower spine, that's your spine resetting. Just let that heat dissipate before you move on. On the next inhale, we're going to come up onto our bottoms, placing our feet out towards the front edge of our mat, sitting up into seated position, finding those sit bones, sitting up nice and tall, drawing through the crown of the head, preparing for cradle the baby. So cradle the baby, we take that one leg up, bring it up, placing that foot in the crease of our arm, wrapping the other arm around for cradle the baby. And cradle the baby, if you find that you roll your back like this and can't maintain that neutral spine in cradle the baby, like this, then you would want to maybe possibly put your foot on top of your thigh, lean back and pull that other leg up to find that good glute stretch. Or you can lay back onto your back and then holding either your shin, the back of your hamstring, or even your legs to pull that in, the top leg to pull that in to get that glute stretch and cradle the baby. So wherever you are in cradle the baby, we're going to come back up to seated position and switch to the other side, pulling that leg up. Finding that nice stretch for that glute. Core center is drawn in, sitting nice and tall or laying back, wherever you're finding that nice glute stretch. Taking that leg down and bringing it down, coming back to seated position, preparing for butterfly. Sitting up nice and tall, drawing now both of those feet together with the soles of our feet touching. Sitting up nice and tall. We can either place our hands, our elbows into our thighs or our hands at our feet, wherever they feel comfortable, that we can use a little bit of leverage to hinge the hips forward as we breathe out, trying to find that nice stretch for those inner thighs. As we breathe in, always try to make that spine really long as we breathe in, and then as we exhale, we hinge at the hips, trying to find a little more stretch. Such a beautiful stretch for the hips. And then bringing those knees back together, placing our feet a little bit further out. And our hands are behind our thighs for boat position. In boat position, we're going to lean back a little bit. And we can stay here in boat position. We can lift those arms if you'd like. Lift the feet and hold underneath. So many positions in boat that we can use. We lift those legs and hold our legs, or we can lift the arms and the legs. Boat position can be a hard position to hold for a very long time. So adjust anytime you feel like you need to adjust for a few seconds. Taking those hands back down. Bending those knees, placing our feet back on the mat, scooting forward and then laying down, placing our hands down. Actually, let's bring those knees up for a second. Give ourselves a little hug. And then placing those feet back down on the floor, preparing for bridge position. Our palms are facing down. Pressing through all four corners of the feet. We're going to press up, lifting the hips up towards the sky, rolling up on our shoulders in bridge position, tightening up the glutes, drawing our core center in, creating some tension between the thighs. If you'd like, you can place your hands behind you, clasping your hands together, and then rolling your shoulders under to get up a little bit further in that bridge position. Really tightening up those glutes. Making sure that all four corners of our feet are pressing into our mats. And then when you're ready, rolling down one vertebrae at a time. Bringing those knees up to the chest. And then reaching through for happy baby, grasping your toes, your ankles, your shins, your knees, wherever you can grasp, and just rocking back and forth in happy baby. See if I can do this without rolling over like I normally do. Placing those, bringing those knees back into the chest. We're going to take our left leg, place it down on the mat. Taking our right foot, placing it by our left knee. Drawing that right knee over to the left side, reaching out with our right arm. Shoulders are trying to stay on the mat. Gazing over that right palm and drawing that right knee over to the left side for spinal twist. This is a nice passive stretch for your hips, your rib cage, your shoulders, your spine. Back to center, bringing those knees up to the chest, and then straightening that right leg out, bringing the left foot by the right knee, drawing the left knee over to the right side, reaching out with that left arm, palm facing up, gazing over that left palm. Really finding that, oh, that awesome stretch of the hip there. That feels good. And then rolling back to center, drawing those knees back up again to your chest. And then letting the legs come down one at a time. Both of them resting on the mat. Letting your arms relax beside you with your palms facing up. Letting your knees fall out to the side and your toes fall out to the side for final rest. Taking a few really nice deep breaths, letting yourself just sink into the mat, finding a really nice comfortable position. Then clicking through that list that you have to do today. Give yourself that chance to think about it and then let it float away. Closing those eyes, relaxing. I'll be quiet for a little bit. have a final rest. Wiggle the fingers, wiggle your toes, brush the pads of your fingertips over each other. You can stay in final rest if you like. Bring those knees up to the chest one at a time, drawing in for a final hug. And then rolling over to the side in baby position. And pressing up through your arm, coming up to seated position with the legs crossed, palms resting up on the top of our thighs, taking a couple of nice deep breaths in. And all together, we'll inhale up, bringing those hands together, and then settling them down at the heart center. Feeling gratitude for today, that I got to see some people here, my peeps here in yoga, my dear friends. I thank you for the yoga that we had today, and for our friendships, and for everything that we get to do today. And with that, I say namaste. Alright, thank you guys, and thank you out there in TV land. I hope you have a blessed day, and we'll see you tomorrow for Wednesday's workout. Have a great day.